So, Five Nights with Froggy. It's a fun game series made by GK Production, also known for other series like Red Ball, Saga and Mystery Chamber. And while I have no doubts there are fans of this game, I just saw a Froggy reference in Torment Below Disney devlog, I'm not sure how many people outside of its original market know about it. That's because these games aren't technically meant for our English fan game market, but rather Russian. Now, I may have had Russian in middle school, but I don't really want to learn it again, so I don't really know that side of fan game scene. But Froggy here stood out for me for quite a while, and I do remember playing it on my phone oddly enough, fully in English, and that it was quite good alongside its sequel. It was a nice surprise to see Froggy be quite decent, especially on mobile. And checking the game download page, we have 4 games to tackle. Let's not waste any more time and begin with the one that started it all. Five Nights with Froggy released on August 25, 2015. However, that was only the first version of the game. Over the years, the game had 3 major updates and is currently awaiting the 5th one with the fact that it's apparently coming to Steam? You damn well know I will be there when that happens. But going back to versions, as of writing of the video, version 4.0.10 is the newest one, and the one I will be covering. Oh, don't worry, I will mention the other versions later on in the video, because the version I played in the past is definitely an older one, because this version is unfamiliar to me. You know, you played something similar, yet it's different in small ways. So we begin with a warning screen that is a bit more elaborate than what I'm used to. And here we have a basic title screen. You know, at least it's not a black void, but rather an image. Also, that's some sharp teeth for a toy. There are some interesting options here, but those unlock after our first shift, so let's check out the story. We begin the story in Prague, in residential area. We are Thomas, a guy who just bought a new apartment. But unfortunately, he is low on cash, so he checks the newspaper to see if there is anything interesting. Wow, that is actually quite a detailed newspaper for a fan game standards. It actually looks like a newspaper. Anyway, it turns out the very kingdom requires a security guard, and after a single call, we get hired. But we also need to get to the kingdom in the city center, and to do that we will use our... I'm surprised it can drive, but hey, the title job is here. It seems like Thomas isn't the best driver because he just crashed into Royal Gazebo, and in front of King no less. The royal servant Lorenzi comes in to assure us that it is fine, that we didn't even make a dent. Somehow. He recognizes us as the new guard and says that we are gonna be helpful since the last guard transferred to day shift, and as such, we are getting the night shift. Lorenzi then takes us to show us our new workplace. No, not that house. This is our workplace. A hut with chicken legs like we were some kind of Baba Yaga. We are assured that it has everything we need inside and that we should get familiar with the kingdom, running away before we can ask about anything else. And so, our Monday shift begins. Wow, it looks quite cozy on the inside actually, save for the skulls. We get a call from Lorenzi on the hut's phone, which for lore reasons has a broken microphone, and as such we can only hear Lorenzi and can't talk back. He's sorry for running away from us so abruptly, because he had a lot of things to do, but promised us to call us at the beginning of each shift. After some corporate or maybe royal speak, he explains to us the basics of our job. So on the right we have our camera system with 8 cameras and quite a lot of things to talk about. So we have 4 options. On cam 1 we can wind up the music box, which isn't a circle like it usually is, but rather a draining percentage. Just press the button to charge it. My opinion on music boxes isn't the best, but in this game I dare say it works because of the next 2 buttons. Night vision allows you to make cameras green and a bit more easy to see at the cost of longer loading times. Not really worth it in my opinion. It's better to just keep cameras normal and learn where vandals appear. Alright, vandals! So, and I swear to God, this is the first time I ever saw us, a night guard, actually guarding and not just sitting and surviving. So recently, the kingdom has been suffering from vandal attacks at the garden, and as a guard, it is our job to defend it. If you see a black shape on one of the cameras, that's a vandal, and to scare him away, you need to use the alarm tab. In the tab you have two options, fire, which calls the fire department and will get you fired if used improperly. In short, never use it. The other one is signal, which fires off an alarm at the area of the camera and after a bit makes vandals run away. Do not leave it on for too long, however, as it is also a way to get fired if left on for too long. And if you think you can just ignore them, no you can't, more on that in a bit. The last option is a map which, well, shows you a map of the kingdom and camera locations, but it also covers the entire half of the screen, making it harder to see vandals, so I keep it off most of the time and just use bottom arrows to cycle through the cameras. You can even use arrow keys on your keyboard for that, and on later nights it's quite helpful. After finishing the call, we get a message on our Nokia from Lorenzi saying that the lamp in our office runs on oil and that it will run out soon, and sure enough, it does run out, leaving us in the dark. Around 4 AM, the first toy will appear in our hut, Froggy. He is apparently based on a real-life toy that was in the childhood neighborhood of GK Production. So Froggy is rather simple design-wise, I mean, is a frog with sharp teeth underneath his jaw. He has one eye, green and white felt and ribbon. Yeah, not much to talk about here, but it is iconic in a way. He starts on cam 1 and makes his way to the hut through the garden. And when he comes to the hut, you will see him in the bottom right corner, right next to the camera button with his eyes shining bright red. So how you deal with him is you simply sit in the darkness, since he can't see well in it and I guess it's fortunate we ran out of oil beforehand. You sit for a bit and he leaves you alone. And that's all for night 1 really, outside of scaring away more vandals. Interestingly, this night seems to actually have been on a pretty generous autopilot for the player. You know, running out of oil does work as a way to show you it's a resource you can run out of. I dare say it's a good design for your first night. At 6 AM you also get notified that it is indeed morning, and get the amount of vandals you scared away tallied up and the damage they have done. If this percentage crosses over 50%, you get fired and need to replay the whole night again, so yes, you can't ignore them. Guard the freaking garden! After summary ends, we are shown night's cutscene. After leaving the hut, we are approached by the daytime guard and previous night guard, Daniel. He introduces himself and says that he is very happy that we are alive and asks us if we saw the toys move. Thomas says that yes, we did see Froggy move, and so David decides to tell us some tips on how to defend ourselves from his time as a night guard. He tells us about the Froggy, that he's blind in dark and needing to turn off the lamp off, but also Kitty, more on her in a minute, and how to deal with both of them at once. After that he leaves and we run to buy some matches. We also get this vision? We get shown some kind of bedroom, then it ends with this dramatic music. You get one every night and I have no clue what their purpose is. On Tuesday night, Lorenzi talks a bit about Daniel, mostly that when he started talking about the toys moving, he was sent to a psychiatrist for being considered crazy.
He told us about how he saw toys walking in the garden. As a result, we decided to send him to a psychiatrist for examination.
But evaluation results showed up today and say that he is perfectly stable, but Lorenzi still wants to keep an eye on him. Tonight, as previously mentioned, Kitty gets added. She is a blue slipper in the shape of a cat, misses her right eye and... yeah, that's about it. And she works as the opposite to Froggy, needing light to be scared away. She comes from the patio as well and through the chimney to the cabin. I have no clue how she can do that. But if you see her in there, you need to use a new mechanic, matchbox. And matches, I guess. To turn the light back on after extinguishing it, which you can do from this night on, you have to take out the match from the box, slide it on the side to light it up, move it rather carefully over the lamp as going too quickly will extinguish it, and after it lights up, extinguish the match and drop it on the floor. This singular interaction is, oh, it's so good feeling. Trying to fumble around to get a match out after coming off cameras and seeing Kitty in the chimney is always stress-inducing. Okay, she is pretty forgiving alongside Froggy, but just knowing that fumbling it will end this run is pretty good motivator to get good at lighting up the lantern. Oh, and in case both of them entered, putting it off and lighting it back up works. And that's all for today. After the shift, we get invited by the king himself for dinner. Lorenzi guides us to King Frogod II, and well, we sit down and talk with the king. Lorenzi does interrupt with his champagne, but outside of a few questions about how we are doing at our job, we don't really learn much. Before we can learn anything about the origins of this palace, the king gets called by his wife, and we also get called by David for a second. We enter his office and he asks if we met the last toy. We of course didn't, so he decides to info dump us on that toy as well. Thomas also asks if he tried to report the toys, but apparently the only person with access to records that could prove that toys are alive is the king, and he just happened to forget his password. Lorenzi notices that David wasn't working for a bit and he returns to work as we begin Wednesday shift. Lorenzi decides to fill the king's shoes and talk about the history of the kingdom, specifically the event from a year ago where the king's daughter went on a walk with parents at night and was never found afterwards. There were some detectives hired to try to find her, but after one of them disappeared, the case went cold. Lorenzi also adds that he's starting to not feel all that great. And so tonight, our third threat gets added. Croco. He gets points from me for just being a crocodile, but I swear to God I had that toy like him somewhere in the attic. You know, the crocodile where you try to guess which teeth won't trigger his jaw to shut, and every time he did shut it was like a jump scare. Croco is invisible on cameras, but you can hear him growling whenever he's on one. He will make his way to your hut, and when you hear growling inside the hut, you need to keep the light on until he leaves. He is the last threat to use light mechanic, but in combination with Kitty and Froggy, all three bounce off one another pretty well, dare I say. Yeah, we have 2 repeats, but hey, the fact that lamp is an actual resource here is helping things, because gameplay here is just fun. Constantly assessing your situations, scaring vandals away is good, great even. But it isn't quite like I remember it. I definitely don't recall vandal mechanic being here and the game looking a bit rougher around the edges, but I will save it for later when I talk about earlier versions. But also at 4 AM we get another call from Lorenzi, this time a bit more panic compared to the last time.
Dream! From Froggy! Yellow! Without eyes! Of course, had terrible dreams before, but not so horrible. What a nightmare.
But after that, our night goes uninterrupted. After this night we don't get another cutscene outside of that weird vision, and begin our Thursday shift. Tonight Lorenzi complains about persistent nightmares that cause him to lose a lot of sleep, and because of that he has more work to do, because he keeps failing at the work which he's supposed to do, which causes him to crash out.
Okay, that's enough. I'm tired of everything, even you. Maybe I should quit my job altogether.
At first this may seem to be just night 3 but harder, but soon enough the vision that Lorenzi saw yesterday, the Golden Froggy, appears in front of us. This is the last threat of the game. Golden Froggy, aka Golden Freddy replacement for this game. I mean, what is there to talk about design? It's Froggy but painted yellow and has no eyes. He randomly appears in the hut, and if you try to touch anything while he's in the hut, he will kill you. To dispel him, you need to turn on your Nokia and use the camera on him, which causes him to disappear. He may not seem like much of a threat at first, but believe me, you will die to him several times in a row. He is a hard punishment for trying to deal with things quickly. But outside of being like the only enemy that I am a bit picky about, he's still pretty alright. Maybe even a bit too simple, it still kills you, so I'd say it's good enough. Again, no cutscene after the night, only this vision, and we come to Friday night, and I have 2 pieces of news for you. The good one is that tonight we have a storm and there are no vandals to scare away. The bad one is that because this is the first game in the series, the fungi is obligated to die.
Perhaps it is somewhere in...
So like I said before, Friday shift is unique in that because of Storm, vandals decided to take a day of vandalizing the garden. So that means you are left alone with the toys, which are quite aggressive tonight. Attacks are relentless and running out of oil is almost a guarantee. And the rain does set a nice atmosphere. The shift police gets called, and since we are the night guard and only other person at the garden at the time of the murder, we are essentially house arrested at the palace for 2 more days as a murder suspect. Froggy asks us a few questions regarding if it could be vandals, before leaving us alone. Things are not going well in this kingdom. But now we have Saturday and it's not raining, so you know what that means? That's right, unrelenting toys from the previous night in combination with vandals, woohoo! This night requires a brand new rhythm compared to the previous nights. Music box drains like crazy, vandals attack left and right, other toys are constantly on attack. But it isn't impossible, still took me like an hour to beat, But once I was done, Froggy officially said that tomorrow I will be paid and that I have a free day. Is Thomas gonna use it? Of course not. So Sunday is your custom night, even if it does have a bit of lore in it. So I set everything to 20 and went right in. Night starts with a cutscene where Thomas does something that I would call stupid, considering what he went through, and decides to go back to the hut and defend the garden one last time. When we sit down, we get a message from the king himself saying we are foolish for doing this. I agree, but we need gameplay, right? We also get a phone call from... Toys, I presume? Night 7. This wasn't that hard, but the focus I needed to manage everything was exhausting to keep up with. Listen, I am not some custom night maniac or max mode enthusiast. I like playing these fun games for gameplay and story, not to destroy my nerves over some sort of timings and shit like that. But this felt like a good challenge. Just the right amount of speed and precision that I like. After beating the night, not only does the result screen mock my attempt to keep vandals away, but Froggy actually comes to see us happy we're alive and hands us the promised payment. I assume these are rubles. Is it like 600 rubles? Is that a lot? No, it really doesn't seem to be a lot, rubles. We also get asked to not speak of what happened here, basically non-disclosure agreement. We drive away and the credits roll. Wait, what? Okay, you can't play as Luigi, but we can play as David. On the night select screen you can swap to David to play exactly one night, Sunday. Okay, so it may say Sunday, but it really is just one night. David's gameplay is... how to say it? Too similar to Thomas's? Okay, David instead of matches has a lighter that while sounds better than matches, is less satisfying to use in my opinion. Flip it up, click a few times to make the flame go up, and hover over the lamp, no putting out required. You don't have a phone, instead you have this notepad with notes that don't really help you because you already mastered the game. And one other change is that Froggy has both eyes. This night is... night 4 difficulty, I'd say. Every toy moves rather slow and music box winds up very slowly, making this night a piece of cake compared to max mode. Well, this was a bit underwhelming, but what happens after we finish this shift is maybe making it worth it. And yep, this is all David has to offer, which isn't much. I kinda hope for maybe at least 3 nights or some kind of different gameplay mechanics, but it was just safe. So we have 5 out of 7 stars. How do we get the other 2? Well, we have 2 more secret nights to finish. Both are rather easy to find. First is found on credits in the main menu. After scrolling down the credits you will see this sun. Clicking on it brings you to special day mode. And this is pretty much the same as night 6, but you work an extra 2 hours, your shift starts at 10 AM, toys start attacking around 12 PM, and every image is swapped to show that it is indeed daytime. And the other night you get by going into the gallery. From there you can check out several fun drawings, which are pretty cute, not gonna lie here. After the last picture you will be shown this window, and clicking on it brings us to Stormy Night. And this night is a menace. Not menace like max mode, because here I'm sure only Croco and Froggy are maxed out and there are no vandals like during night 5, But what is really getting on my nerves are two things. First one is the volume of the rain, like oh my god, it's so loud. And to add salt to injury, your roof is leaking. And anytime you light up a match or lantern, there is a random chance the water will snuff it out. And it's just very annoying, because more often than I would like to admit, this would keep on happening.
Nope. Nope. Nope.
This night took me another hour to complete. This wasn't a fun challenge, like at all. Okay, so what's there left to talk about? Well, we have this bestiary with small lore tidbits about every character we met. Extras have jump scares and minigame where you protect Thomas from toys till you die. Okay, I won't drag this on for any longer. That's all there is in Five Nights with Froggy. And I have to say, I had a surprisingly good time here. I didn't expect to have a good time here, but hey, it is nice to have my expectations subverted. Gameplay was quite interesting, actually utilizing a mechanic that I swear to god should be used in more fun games. This matchbox mechanic needs to return in some random fun game because it deserves more love. But outside of it, it's your standard FNAF gameplay. Watch cameras actually defend the place you are guarding, while the music box, those are all standards at this point. We also have a story that is honestly pretty nicely expanded in future games, even if it's a bit confusing to follow, and it's honestly still not finished because few games got cancelled, but that's besides the point. By the time you are watching this, the Steam version is out and you can play it there, and if you are on Android phone, you can download it from Play Store. And speaking of Android versions, Sequel has it as well, and I should really move to talking about it because oh boy, it's a beast. Five Nights with Froggy 2, released on March 8, 2016. Yeah, this took a while to release compared to most fan games. I mean, okay, 8 months to develop a game is rather short, but by fan game standards, I'd say it's rather long. Although original version of the first game wasn't all that great, as you'll see in part 5, the attention it received was enough for GK to make a sequel, and is updated rather often, the last update releasing on April 1st, 2024. It also is apparently planned to be brought to Steam as well, but the version I recorded is 2.3.3. Okay, enough talking, let's begin the game. So this time the warning screen actually gives me an option to leave, and of course I have to try it. Anyway, actually getting to the menu, I think I expected something grander, but instead got a very straightforward menu. Oh well, not much else to say about it than to start the new game. We begin with an interesting newspaper. Apparently, Froggo's palace was raided by vandals again on Sunday, and since Thomas and everyone else is gone, a freaking bomb went off as destroying it. Froggo and his family were safe, of course, but damage was apparently pretty extensive. 3 years later, in 2007... Oh yeah, did I forget to mention the first game took place in 2004? I think I did. So in 2007, the palace was restored as a giant theater and is looking for a night guard to look over it. And our guy signs up with a title drop. Before night begins, we get this cutscene where old toys are running through the forest, and then we begin our Monday shift. This time phone calls take place before the shift. We are called by Deputy Osipov, who explains to us what happened with the palace after the destruction, which amounts to the city getting the building and deciding to change it into a theater. We also get told about our responsibilities, video recording not working for some reason, sensors in the vents, etc. And we get the option to actually answer the call, and we learn our name is Bertin. We talk a bit more, getting some more info about our position before we begin working, and I can start explaining the gigantic office space we are given. Okay, let's start simple. You begin each night in security station. Here you have few things you can do. You have a desk lamp on the table to the left, which you can turn on and off. You can guess what that will be used for. On our right, we have an old computer with an old version of security program to watch over the cameras. More on that in a sec. You can also look behind you to see the entrance door and hold them shut. While standing in the security station, you can click on the bottom right corner to go to the CCTV room. This room has a light switch on the bottom left, which turns lights on and off, and features the new camera system that loads faster compared to the old one. For my measurements, this difference seems to be quite big, if I'm gonna be honest, 4 whole seconds to be exact. However, you are not able to keep both of them open at the same time because of room number 3. Clicking on the right side of the screen in the CCTV room brings us to the electric room. This is apparently the room that keeps our office powered up, as supposedly it has a generator. You also have a light switch here, but what you want to focus on is the fuse box in front of you. Depending on how many lights are on the box, you will have different chances for power to trip and disable electricity in all 3 rooms. Green is no chance for trip, yellow is a low chance, and red basically means it will trip any second now. You always have 1 point of strain, each light adds 1 to the table, and both computers also have different levels of power strain, the old one giving us 2, while the new one gives us 5, crossing to the yellow. So essentially, using the new computer means at one point or another power will go out. And when power goes out, you need to head to the fuse box and flip fuses back on, restoring the power. If you had any lights on before power went out, those will automatically turn on. Computers, however, need to be rebooted. Okay, this is everything regarding the office space. And now I need to mention the cameras, because there are a lot of them. 32 whole cameras. I swear to God, if this isn't a record, I'm scared to know what fangame holds it. Default, you can see 20 cameras at once. You can switch between the tabs to check the remaining 12 cameras. Clicking on any of the cameras zooms onto it, and from there you can press arrow keys on the bottom of the screen, just like in Froggy 1, to cycle through each one of them. If you want to see more cameras, you can press the camera button to go back to the full cam view. You can also press the map button to display the map of the theater, which every time I do starts overloading my brain. And from the map you can also press this ventilation button to display the ventilation network. Yes, this is all connected. And finally, on the bottom left, you can turn off the computer. If you want to leave it on, just click on the bottom right side. Did you get all that? Hope you do, because no one is active tonight. Which in every other fun game I'd say is something I could criticize, but my god, I am thankful I don't need to deal with anyone while absorbing all the information about the office. I mean, most fun games don't have 3 rooms you need to learn and a camera system this big to memorize. Spoiler, you don't need to memorize every camera. And I think a free night to learn it all is a necessary evil. And it's not like nothing is happening. On cam 27 you can see that someone is in the workshop. You can't exactly do much else till night is over, but it is good to keep in mind someone is here with us. And that would be all for night 1. After our shift, we approached the door to the workshop, and after knocking and getting no answer outside of some groans, I got curious about that bot went. Well, at least we know what he looks like. After this we get a minigame. You play as Lorenzi on 23rd of May, which would be the first shift for Thomas. You can walk around the garden, see the toys, the indestructible gazebo, and finally enter your house and approach the desk to the left, ending minigame and getting sent to night 2. So tonight the phone call is mainly talking about the forgotten rumor that the toys in the palace were walking around before we mentioned that someone is in the workshop. At first Osipov is of course angry. We are the guard who is supposed to talk about everything that is happening in the theater. He tells us that the person's name is Philosopher. Osipov says that he is a big alcoholic and apparently lived there for quite a while, as he was found during the restoration of the palace and refused to leave. So they decided to hire him as a locksmith, and instead of paying in money, they pay him in form of food and alcohol. But he did prove useful, as the new toys that arrived today were damaged and he offered to repair them. In spite of all that, I'm extremely suspicious of that guy, even if Osipov says he is harmless. Especially since he had contact with the toys. Oh, and also apparently the vent above the CCTV room is a bit cluttered, so we are given a flathead screwdriver to tighten up the screws. And before Osipov starts reminiscing about the frogots, we begin our shift. So before I move to the enemies, let's quickly touch up on that vent. So now in the CCTV room, you can click up to look at the vent. You have 4 screws that need to be tightened up, and to do this, use the flathead we were provided. You click and hold the mouse over the screw and the screws will be tightened up automatically. But you can only tighten the screws when there's light on, so I guess it's another point toward power preservation or something. You can also hold it like a door, but I never found it to be useful. I think it's like unused mechanic or something. Now I can talk about the brand new toys we need to defend against, and I think it's best to just separate them into two categories, because there are 6 of them and just like in FNAF 2, we have some mechanic sharing. Let's start with the vent. The toys that attack our vent are Czebruszka, Plush Kroko and Koty. I'm not sure what Czebruszka is, but she looks nice. Kroko looks more like a random alligator plush, and Koty is a plush cat. All of them start on their cameras and head to the nearest vent opening. While in the vent, you will be notified there is a movement in the vents and can track them on the map of the palace. After they reach your office, they will start banging on the vent cover, loosening the screws a bit before leaving. You shouldn't look up at the vent while they are knocking on it, as it makes them more aggressive, so just wait till they leave and then tighten up the screws. And as you can guess, if you ignore the vent, individual screws will start falling off, and when all are gone, you will be killed by one of them. The second category are door threats, which consists of Plush Froggy and Draco. Plush Froggy, outside of looking very cute, will go through the vent to cam 3 and from there to the front door of the security station that is connected with cam 1. When you see Plush Froggy on cam 1, you can hold the door to make him knock on them, and after a bit he will leave. But in case he does open the door, he will croak and you just need to move to a different room. Oh, and you can't close the door while he's at them or you will be killed. And the other guy is Draco the Dragon. Of course he's my favorite toy, he's a dragon. He will start in the cave system, yes, this palace has a cave system, apparently it's part of the theater, don't ask me how, and move to cam 3, and after a bit of waiting, he will dash through cam 2 and 1 to the office. You will hear and see that he's doing it when the screen starts shaking and his growling is heard, and to prevent him from killing you, you hold the door shut and wait for him to bang on them. So he's essentially Foxy with extra steps. And lastly, we have this guy, the Mighty Dragon. I don't get his deal. He randomly appears above the office, both offices for that matter, and after a while jumpscares you and doesn't even kill you. I guess it's meant to be like an Easter egg, but I got it like 3 times in a row, so I don't know what his purpose is. It does kick you out of the cameras, but I'm gonna be honest, unlike the first game, cameras, here they are pretty useless and not worth looking at. Not only do you really only need the first 3 to track the whole 2 enemies that use the door, there are no vandals to scare away, and the other threats go through the vent anyway, so watching them on cameras is redundant, since the only position that matters is on the vent sensors, and in your office I guess. You know, I just feel like the amount of cameras is more so here to show you the scale of the palace, but not really to be used for anything else. And this would be all for night 2. After the night, Bertin decides to investigate the workshop. First, you need to lockpick the door, which is easier said than done, but not impossible. And after you enter the room, you will be presented with... Yep, this is a minigame. Your task here is to juggle the balls in the air so that they don't shatter on the floor, and wake up Philosopher. The more bottles you have on the screen, the higher score multiplier is. Oh right, I forgot, you cannot see it during Night 2 version of this minigame, but you can replay it in the extras menu. Sometimes bottles fly through the screen, which is often a good chance to get bottles stuck on them and get some free points. If you make too much noise, Philosopher wakes up and kicks you out.
Who's walking around and doesn't let me sleep? How dare you disturb my dream? Get out!
After that, we get a cutscene where we are shown the previously mentioned Sunday raid on the palace in 2004. Not much to really talk about it, it's just vandals destroying the palace, burning down the place down and setting a lot of explosives down before shooting a cannon into a pile of them at the entrance. And for the last time we are shown the old toys, but this time they are very close to the theater and us. So Wednesday rolls again, and that means another phone call from the deputy. Outside of asking if we are getting used to our job, we can tell him about the situation that happened yesterday at the workshop, which goes nowhere as the deputy still isn't suspicious of Philosopher doing something bad. But I very much am. After that he starts talking about the tragedy that occurred at the palace. And yeah, it's about Froggy's daughter again. You know, walking around the garden, dying, investigators going missing. But we do get a bit expanded version, as after the disappearance of the detective, the security was tightened up and upgraded to what it is today. And things went quiet for a while until vandals started showing up. And as such, they hired security guards to watch over the garden at the night and scare away anyone trying to destroy it. And then the murder of Lorenzi happened, and while the body was found, no one could be traced as the murderer. Shortly after Froggy left the palace and the Sunday raid happened, Osipov says that he talked with all of the captured vandals after the Sunday raid and came to the conclusion that none of them could have done it. Even if one of them was a mother-in-law of Froggy II, and the deputy also mentions the other side of the story, the toys of Froggy that were supposed to be alive. One of the guards figured out several techniques to defend against them, David I presume, because the next thing he mentions is psychiatrist. And then the second one came in, Thomas, and while at first he was silent about everything, Lorenzi's murder made him talk about the toys and how he heard Froggy kill him while he was on a call with him. We also ask about the supposed techniques, more of them in a minute, and our shift begins. So tonight the original cast joins in. Froggy, Kitty, Croco and Gnomes are here, even if a bit dirty. And to be honest, there is not much to say about the first three. All of the old toys started on Camp 32 and moved to the office. Froggy, Kitty and Croco work the same way as before. For Froggy, keep the lights off, Kitty and Croco keep the lights on. You can see them in the security station unless you are looking at the door, but you can see them under the desk in the CCTV room and you will always see Croco. However, the gnomes work quite differently. At the start of our shift we are given back the music box. Don't worry, it doesn't have to be wound up all the night. If you start hearing gnomes whisper, you need to keep the music box wound up until you hear gnomes open the door. After they enter the room, they will be scared away by the song and leave immediately. I dare say it's in the top 5 ways of using the music box like mechanic. It isn't quite as boring as normal music box, and it also doesn't force camera usage. But yeah, this is everything for tonight. Tonight's minigame is weird. You play as Froggy and are running away from the aforementioned mother-in-law. You get through the obstacle course in the garden. I almost got caught but managed to dodge her. Before you reach the philosopher's workshop. Okay, this only makes me more suspicious of the guy. On Thursday we get notified it's raining again. And also notified that we burned the light bulb in the electrical room. Oh yeah, that did happen yesterday. When I tripped the power, it accidentally burned the light, so I can't use it anymore. Ostipov this time talks about the previous king, Froggy first. The first Froggy apparently had a weak heart, but more interestingly for us, he was the original owner of the original toys. Those toys were very precious to him. His long abandoned palace is apparently somewhere behind this one. The beauty encourages us to visit it. He continues talking about his wife, who apparently became extremely angry after losing her zipper, and after not finding it, she changed the remaining zipper into a kitty toy. And during all that, he ordered a new palace to be built, but before it was finished, he died and his son Froggy II moved in there. But apparently Froggy II did go back to Old Palace to investigate right before all the events of the first game happened, and before he says anything else, he finishes saying it's 12 AM already and we should get to work. Tonight not a toy gets added, but a vision. Golden Frog joins the chaos and haunts us. He will randomly appear when moving between the rooms, and since we have no phone camera to deter him, we have to click on him to banish him. If you ignore him or move to another room before banishing him, he will kill you. But outside of stopping you from time to time and scaring absolute shit out of me when I see him and I hear Draco at the same time, he is not a big threat. After the night is over, right after the shift we get approached by this guy, supposedly a detective. The person asks us to come out so we can be compared with a photo. Bertin is surprised by this because he didn't really expect anyone to enter the building on his shift and that someone is looking for him, so he quickly shuts the door and the minigame ends. On Friday's phone call, Deputy's attitude has changed.
Did you think you could work here after that? Don't try to play it dumb. Speak up! Why did you destroy this palace?
Because as it turns out, we aren't just some random guy like Thomas was in the first game. We are a past vandal of the Fairy Kingdom.
Back then, you and your gang came and almost demolished everything here. How could you tear down this wonderful palace? The royal family lived here. They lived happily ever after. And then, you bloody vandals decided to blow it all up.
So yeah, we most likely were one of the people who caused the kingdom to be destroyed, and while we have all the reasons to be charged with jail time, Osipov is kind today and lets us go as long as we don't return again, right as the night begins. Tonight, two new things get introduced and both are more annoying than Golden Froggy. First is Lorenzi's ghost. He will randomly appear when moving from one location to another, while asking this oddly creepy question as your vision distorts.
Oh, you're not thinking Froggy. You have to leave right now.
And after jumpscaring us, the power will always trip, forcing us to go to the fuse box. Not a big deal, you will say, we only need light and it's not like we need cameras for anything, right? Well, this is the other thing that gets added tonight. The fake fire alarm. Randomly, during your shift, your office will start blinking red, loud alarm sound will be heard, and a voice will call out that fire alarm is active. You are given 1 minute to disable it, and to do it, you turn on your computer and click the button to cancel it. The noise coming from the alarm does pretty good job at masking a lot of other sounds you should pay attention to. Like Gnome's whispering, or Draco, or Froggy. Okay, maybe not Draco, he is pretty loud. And it should be high on your priority list, because if you don't disable it in a minute, firefighters will come in and end the shift. But don't forget about other things like power going out, other toys attacking, especially the ones in the vent, because my god did I keep forgetting about them and dying to them later on. Oh, and don't forget that when you are booting up the computer, you need to wait for the whole boot up sequence before you can disable the alarm. And during that, you are fully vulnerable to everything around you. And if you want to get away, you have to turn off the whole computer. This is a pretty good, even if a bit annoying, mechanic. It essentially puts you in a small panic mode because, you know, no one likes time limits, and giving you a time limit in the middle of your shift when you are most likely dealing with something else already is a very interesting mechanic to put in a FNAF fan game. But it also shows me a small problem I noticed, that one computer is simply better than the another. And I mean the new one is the better one, the one you should be using from this night on. Despite the higher power strain, the few seconds it saves on the boot up can be life-saving. And since Lorenzi can just disable power out of nowhere, you don't really need to use the old one. Not only CCTV room has vent, but it also has that desk that shows you whether Kitty or Froggy entered the room. Really, all that is left in the security station is door to block Draco and the music box for gnomes. Other than that, it's kind of useless from this night on. But in spite of this small issue this mechanic created, I say it is still a pretty good one and blends well with everything else around it. The toys are also very aggressive, but as long as you remember to stay in the CCTV room and not in the security station, you should be fine. And this is all for our last night. And as such, we get last minigame. We play as the princess. Oh, I know where this is going. We walk around the garden looking for our parents, and after not finding them, this happens. God, that's brutal. And then we get told that we have the pass. but still decided to return. So Saturday comes in and, well, Ostipov asks us if we are Antonio, a new guard I assume. You have few options to choose from, but I decided to say hi to our old friend.
God damn you, Bertin! I told you to get out of this palace. I don't want to hear you anymore. Get out! And where is Antonio?
Yeah, sure, it doesn't matter.
What did you do to him? That's it. I'm calling the police.
Oh. Oh!
Stop right there!
Wait, that was the ending? No, wait. There are 6 endings? Okay, at least the game is generous enough to give you this map for each ending. Okay, let's go back to night 6 and not say something that when I think about it twice could mean something terrible happened to the guy considering we have a criminal record, but we get still annoyed talk from the deputy, but hopes we will be gone by tomorrow, and also asks us about the fire alarms, but we know as much as he does about them, which isn't a lot. So tonight the last threat gets added, the ghost of the murdered princess Sophie II. She's kinda like Golden Froggy but easier. Once again, she appears when you are moving between the rooms and shows you 3 silhouettes of her. To banish her, you need to click on the brightest one, and that's all. I never died to her, she's not a threat at all in my opinion. I mean, okay, she does pause you just like Golden Froggy does, but Golden Froggy kinda takes more effort to deal with, unlike Sophie that is basically a quick guessing game. This night really kicked in the cycle that I need to do to deal with everything, and I will say that it is just as, if not more difficult than the one found in Froggy 1. To be fair, we have over 13 threats to deal with, even if few of them share mechanic, but hey, this is a pretty good gameplay loop all things considered. I really have not much to complain about. Maybe we could get a few more uses for light mechanic, and maybe door, and maybe cameras, but other than that, it's pretty good. And thank god it doesn't fall into the pitfall of having a lot of mechanic sharing, like Five Nights at Freddy's 2 had. There are very few enemies that have the same mechanic, so I have to give praise here before I start complaining, which is very soon. And now we can finish Saturday and move to Sunday, aka Custom Night. I set everyone on 20, got in call with the deputy again, who is even more annoyed that we are back. He decides to come for us personally after the shift, and we also get this note written on toilet paper. Is it from Philosopher? Most likely, but not like I really care about that. I care about winning, don't I? And I'm gonna be honest, I bet 13-20 on my first try. I'm not kidding, I was just on fire after night 6, and at this point the game wasn't that challenging. I mean, all it really amounted to is sitting at CCTV room and sometimes running to security station to deal with Draco and gnomes. I am really starting to question if we really needed those 2 rooms. Like, did we really need 2 offices and 2 computers? Was it necessary for gameplay to have these, if one option is clearly better than the another? That's a question for later, because right now I have beaten the max mode. And instead of getting captured, I get a phone call from someone. Is it deputy? So the philosopher's real name is Dominic Sorkisto. He goes outside, touches some grass, says he was in his workshop for over 30 years and talks in a very raspy voice.
Shut your mouth. I had my reasonings.
We don't get much out of him, mostly able to scold him, and after he cleans his throat, he seems very angry at us for surviving Dois on max aggression, but as he speaks, the fire alarm activates again, but this time it's not fake. It's very much real, and you can't turn it off. The whole office starts shaking. Ostipov enters confused before... What's happening? Oh come on, that counted as a game over? We get a newspaper detailing the second explosion at the palace, the city mayor not sure what to do with it, and the credits roll. Again. But that was only the second ending. The one I got on night 6 is called a sudden arrest, this one was called interrupted arrest, so where is the arrest? Well, then the game does give you a tip to beat night 7 on not max mode, so I do just that. After waiting for like 8 minutes for the night to finish, the philosopher doesn't call you, and Dostepov comes with police without an issue and arrests us, giving us our third ending, arrest. Now I was a bit confused on what to do next. The 3 endings now were connected with this line, but the other one seems to branch out from the sudden arrest. Maybe I need to stay silent on night 6 and convince the deputy I am Antonio and the phone broke or something? Let's check that theory.
Hello? Antonio? I wasn't prepared for this. This phone... Okay, he's already been instructed. I hope he'll handle.
Alright, it seems like the deputy bought it, so let's speedrun 8.6. Alright, now let's set everything to 20 again and beat max mode again. Oh, and then stay silent when the deputy asks us again, and he is now convinced the phone is broken, so that means he shouldn't arrive with his police force like he did in previous endings. One max mode later, we get called by the philosopher again, he touches grass, clears throat, gets mad at us for beating max mode, the palace explodes again. Wait, this is the same as interrupted arrest, but without police coming. Am I supposed to assume this is the better ending because less people died in it? Okay, this ending's name is End of Palace. So, to get the next 2 endings, we need to beat night 7 on not max mode. So, let's quickly do that. After sitting, doing absolutely nothing, almost nothing, okay, I have to turn off the alarm, for almost 8 minutes, I get to the ending. This time, when talking with the philosopher, he simply asks us to get out of there, or he will send the wrath upon us. We get 1 minute to leave the palace, and you can do one of 2 things. You can click on the door to get the first ending, Live Forever ending, where you leave the palace, this time for real. We get a newspaper regarding the ceiling collapse at the cave during a show of Froggy and Friends during the theater's opening day, which is somehow worse than just us dying, because over 40 people die in this case, so I guess it's net negative for an ending. The other ending is us being foolish and staying for that 1 minute. After time is up, every single toy rushes to you, which is actually quite scary to see when you turn on the cameras. And after a bit, you die to one of them. Deputy finds our body, and the credits roll, giving us the last ending, Bertin's Folly. And that's every single ending in Five Nights with Froggy 2, but that doesn't mean I am done with this game. We are close, believe me, but there are still a few more things for us to do. First of all, challenges. And I will be honest, none of them were really all that fun. The first one, Prepare Your Hammer, gives you a hammer which you can use to parry a jumpscare. You can unwind the music box or use the lights or screw the vent, so what you do is basically sit in the security station and hit anyone who jumps at your face with the hammer. It's fun for like a minute, but it gets boring very quickly, especially with how loud some of the jumpscares are. Next is Simply Gnomes, where gnomes are in your office and you need to keep the music box wound up so that they don't wake up. The problem with this one is that the music has a very short wind-up duration. It's like only a little less than 10 seconds, so you can't really do that much. Even going to reset breakers almost kills you, and going to the vent gives you barely enough time to screw things up before you need to rush back to keep music playing. It took me the least time to beat, but it wasn't all that satisfying, if you will. Next challenge, Fog of the Past. Visions appear almost every time you move between the rooms. Croco and Kitty become especially dangerous because Lorenzi is a threat you cannot avoid. I think the idea was to incentivize sitting in one place, but that's a little hard to do when you have a vent to screw up, doors to close, Draco and Plush Froggy to keep up with, and music box to wind up. Meaning you pretty much need to get lucky to win this one and not get Lorenzi too often. Also, you have this haze effect always on the screen, which makes everything look worse. Next is Sleepy Night. This time you are constantly falling asleep, and to stay awake you need to either stay in the light or get jumpscared by Lorenzi. Again, not really fun, it isn't a challenge so much as it is annoying. Okay, time for an actually fun one. Don't break the bottle. The bottle machine from the minigame comes back, and this time you need to keep the bottle up the entire length of the night. Every toy is not on a high AI level, which means that they move slow, which means you can focus better on keeping the bottle up in the air. You can even hold the mouse to constantly hit the bottle, which can actually help sometimes. And the bottles themselves aren't added that often, which means you can easily break one and have time to recover from the noise it generated. Overall, very fun challenge, not gonna lie. And the next one is right in the middle of I Hate Your scale, Explode or Die. In this challenge you have 2 bombs placed on the opposite sides of the office, one near the door and the other one at the fuse box. To keep them from exploding you need to keep finding codes on the cameras. Yes, you have to do something on cameras. These codes appear on random cameras in 2 colors. Red is for the bomb at the door and blue is for the bomb at the fuse box. Not sure why in-game screens aren't colored differently to show this difference, but it didn't take me long to figure it out. Alright, of a challenge. It gets bonus points for camera usage alone, but yeah, this is a decently fun one. Those were all of the challenges. And overall, I didn't really like them. They definitely tried to mix up the gameplay, but I feel like that with the amount of toys that were thrown at you, the mechanics that were added didn't really mesh well with the existing gameplay. If these changes had less toys in them, maybe they would be more fun. But as it stands, I think they are a nice time waste and not that much more. Right, we also have this practice mode where you can practice every single mechanic of the game. Alright. The last big thing left in Froggy 2 are the secret nights. Yes, these are making a return and are grander than ever. This time, instead of looking around the menus, you need to press the buttons in the custom night menu several times to enter the night. From the top, we start with the randomize option. Clicking it a few times brings you to a funny night. You have a disco ball and an array of flickering lights in addition to this loud song playing. Oh, how could I forget that Bertin took some drugs and the screen gets all wobbly. Oh, it's fun. No, not really. Next is set all to 0. Clicking it a few times takes you to a gloomy night. During this night power chips off, and when you try to turn the power back on, the breakers flip themselves back off. Oh, it's so fun. And lastly we have set all to 20. Clicking it a few times... Okay. This is a hellish night with everyone set to 666 difficulty, and we also have this red tint over the screen. I think you can guess how this night went, but I think I'm going to show you... I'm still proud I somehow made it to 2 AM. Maybe I will mention this here, but I did not finish a single one of these nights. Okay, I did somehow manage to finish Gloomy Night. I think I was pretty close to beating the Funny Night, but there is no way in hell I am beating the Hellish Night. That shit is just too hard for me. So unfortunately, I am leaving this game at 89% finished. Call me a fraud for not finishing it, but I do not think the endgame portion of this game is all that worth playing. So, this was 5 Nights with Froggy 2. A bigger, better and slightly bloated sequel. For me, this game feels more like a side grade to Froggy 1 than a complete upgrade. Game definitely has more in it compared to Froggy 1, but at the same time everything that is here feels a bit simple or wasted. We have 3 rooms and each one has a purpose, but it also feels like innovation for the sake of it. Like 2 camera systems, cool. But as the game goes on, only one of these systems becomes the viable one. We have 6 new toys, and 3 of them try entering the same exact way, and are not hard to deal with at all. Toy Froggy is a joke, only Draco and Mighty Dragon are a threat, and even then they are rather easy to deal with. Draco often gives you plenty of time to reach the door. Returning toys are no different outside of Gnomes, and Visions, especially Lorenzi, are just annoying for the sake of being annoying. In spite of all that, the gameplay loop is still very solid, just like Froggy 1, which in turn makes it better than all the fun games that I played in my life. But post-game stuff is definitely not for me. I did not really enjoy going for those challenges and those special nights. I still very much recommend this, just like Froggy 1. And now, after talking about this game for like 40 minutes I think, it's time to move to new and worse games. Five Nights with Froggy Fury released on August 17, 2016. And compared to the first time gap between the first and second game, this is more like what I expect from a FNAF fan game, only 5 months. And maybe I would just say it here, but if you want to download it, for some reason, you cannot. That's because Froggy Fury recently was packaged with other old Froggy games in an anniversary collection for Froggy's 10th anniversary, Five Nights with Froggy Classic Games. I think I forgot to mention this year is Froggy anniversary, so here we go. 2025 is Froggy's 10th year of existence. Now, why was Froggy Free put there and not the other versions? Because it wasn't updated at all since its original release. Unlike the first and second game, it never received an overhaul update, and while it was planned for a while now, and it is planned to start development this year, it's not out by the time of this video's release, so the version I will be playing is 1.2.8 found in Froggy Collection. Alright, let's begin. We open to this menu, which is somehow even simpler than the last one. Oh, not much to do in it other than start the new game. We begin with this comic book-like cutscene showing Froggo II walking towards the castle and being blocked from entering by a guard. We then get this block of text showing us what exactly was said during that conversation. And as someone who wouldn't pride themselves in being too great at English, I make mistakes all the time. My god, there are so many grammar errors in this block of text. I did mark few that I noticed, but other than that, this makes the text almost incomprehensible to anyone. I will add that the previous two games did also have few grammar errors, or at least I think, I will show them now on screen. But this game especially is riddled with errors, and it makes me consider if they just used Google Translator, because the translation here is terrible. But, from what I understand, the story goes like this. Froggo II was on his way to his cousin Sangod, who he wanted to live with after the destruction of Palace on the Sunday from Froggy 1 and 2, I guess. However, before entering, he is blocked by a guard who insists no one is allowed into the castle as long as Sangod isn't in the palace, because he's on some private business. However, guard does mention that he will be back in 5 days and that Froggo can temporarily stay at a nearby hotel. Froggo heads there and books a room, and as he unpacks his baggage, he realizes that toys were inside of it all along. In panic, he throws it out of the window into the garbage, and as he prepares for the night, Night 1 officially begins. Oh god, that is a lot of text to comprehend. Let's start with the left side. This game has a shop of some sorts. You have a limited amount of euros to spend and can buy coffee from the dining room. Daily, you buy 1 coffee and 1 meal costing you 13 euros and can buy additional coffee for the night to not fall asleep. More on that in a minute. However, any coffee that was not used during the night will go to waste. In short, the game is asking you to think about how much coffee you will need for the night and ration it correctly. From experience, 3 to 4 are a good amount. In the middle we also have our Nokia phone. We got a message from our agents who supposedly already know about the toy crisis. However, they cannot come today, they will be here in 5 days. Convenient. But apparently they have already studied the hotel layout and can tell us how to defend ourselves against the toys. And on the right we have a story summary. The only noteworthy thing to mention is that our wife is staying in Prague and our kids were sent to some kind of camp. After you are done rationing the coffee, use 1 and begin the night. This image is crispy. So we appear in our hotel room, and if you couldn't tell, this is from time before quality was increased. We start on our bed with 4 rectangles. We have 3 at the side and 1 on the right, so let's start with left ones. First one brings us to the bathroom, where we have a toilet we can flush with a timer. Next we have a front door, which we can pick out to see the hallway, and clicking on right lets us see the corner. At the door we can press the other rectangle to hold them shut, because apparently this hotel only has chains for locks and toys can easily fit through that. The last rectangle brings us to the closet. We can close it and not much else. Alright, clicking on the right far rectangle rotates us to the middle of the room, and rotating once more brings us to the window. Here you can close it, not sure why we keep it open, but sure, and check the drain pipe. As you can tell, this game is trying to be FNAF 4. No cameras, only basic defenses to use against the threats. But that's kinda the theme of the last 2 games, so I'm not sure if it works as well as it's supposed to. How about we go over the threats of Night 1? So we have Froggy, Kitty, Gnomes, Croco, wait a minute, this is everyone. Yeah, I guess every toy was in that suitcase we carried, but is it really worth putting every single thread on night 1? You know, the very first one? It's never good for a fan game to just introduce 90% or in this case 100% of the cast immediately. And as you can guess, I died quite a few times before I read this block of text in the main menu explaining every enemy. But you are not getting that. I have 5 nights to play and I do not feel like info dumping everything on night 1. Don't worry, this game is still shorter than the last 2 overall, you won't be stuck here for too long. So since it's night 1, let's start with Froggy. He tries climbing up the drain pipe to your room. To get him off, you need to shake it at the window and wait for Froggy to fall down with audible thunk. But if he does reach your window, you need to shut the window before he attacks you. Keep it shut for a bit and you are golden. Definitely different compared to the last time we saw him, but I do enjoy the sound Froggy makes when he falls down the pipe. And that would be all for night 1. On night 2 we get a message from our cousin, who is happy that we are going to live with him, but is still unable to help us get into the castle. Somehow. He also mentions something called the Sun. Wonder if that's a reference or something. Yeah, okay, I won't hold the suspense. It's apparently a reference to another Russian FNAF fan game, Three Nights with Sun, that is unfortunately not translated to English, so I'm unable to play it myself. But hey, if you just so happen to speak Russian, you can try the 6-year-old fan game. On the right side, we are also told that Prague's mayor is planning on building a theater in our abandoned palace, and that all of those, minus one, most likely Bertin, were captured and imprisoned. Really, all I can say about the gameplay here is that it just gets faster every night. It works fine, but once you fall into a loop, the game becomes a bit of a joke with how easy it is. You don't even really need to worry about cash as long as you don't buy like 5 or 6 coffees daily. Buy 4 and you will be golden for each night. I'm just wondering what the old version of Froggy 1 and 2 looked like, if this was what the prequel was. So anyway, let's talk about gnomes. This time they use no music box like mechanic and act more like Nightmare Bonnie and Chica. They will attack from the hallway and you can scare them away with a flashlight if they are still in it. Eventually, however, they will come to the door and to repel them you need to shut the door and wait for them to leave with this knocking sound. Very easy to deal with, but they do commit a crime to FNAF 4's design and that they have no sound cues. This FNAF 4 fan game has no sound cues for when a thread is moving. Why do both Froggy and Croco have them then? No idea, but it essentially makes it so you don't really listen out for anything. You just run around like a headless chicken and check everything for someone without even caring for your safety. On night 3 we get a message from... Officer? He says that we did the right thing, that the attack won't happen again. Is he referring to a raid on the palace? I'm really having trouble comprehending this English translation. But in short, he wishes us good time at our cousin's castle, and the right side has nothing of value to add. Alright, 2 toys to go, let's start with Croco. He uses the sewer system and climbs through the toilet to get to us. When you hear growling, you need to rush to the bathroom and flush the toilet. He does attack rather quickly, so he should be a priority above everyone else. Night 4, today the agent sent you some money. Thank God, because I was running a bit low on cash after the last few nights. Alright, last thread to talk about, Kitty. She starts in the doorway corner on the floor. When she gets close, you can close the door and wait for Funk as a sign that she is back there. But if she does sneak into the room, she doesn't kill you immediately. Instead, she goes to hide in the wardrobe. In it, you can shine your flashlight at her to calm her down and stop her from shaking. If you don't do it, she kills you. You can also hold the closet door shut, but I never found use for it. And she also has no sound cue that she's awake or at least trying to kill you. But I guess she's more like a Nightmare Foxy, so I guess it's not as offensive as gnomes. And the final night is here. You get a message from... Philosopher? What is this guy doing in my messages? This was the final night, so I spent some more money on coffee and got to running around the room again. Like yeah, it was harder than the previous 4 nights, but there is simply no excitement because there are no new threats added since night 1. It's just the same loop you did during night 1, repeated 4 more times. At least I can give it a credit for not being like 6 horrors, but god was this boring to play through. But whatever, I reached the end. We get a cutscene with Philosopher laughing maniacally and for some reason with toys walking. and then the last set of panels showing we got to the castle safely. Wait, isn't this angle just Froggy copied with different colors? And we did it! The first star is ours! Just 3 more to go. And now we unlocked extras and have 2 options, the final dream of Froggy and challenges. Let's start with the dream. It is a very simple platforming section. You jump in this dreamscape through, I think, your memories? There are a lot of Lorenzi matches for some reason. The diary talks about a castle being built and a wife being mad at her lost slipper. You aren't even really challenged, moving platforms are practically a joke. You respawn when you die and before long you get a star. But as I found out, that's not all. Going back and completing it once more actually opens up a new path. The game itself seems angry that we are going outside the boundary and asks us to press F3. I fell for it. Alright, one more replay of the boring section and not pressing F3, we get continuously scolded for continuing before reaching breaking point and activating hardcore mode. Here you actually have a health bar and a lot of bustles that want to deplete it. Not sure why Froggy dreams are just like that of Pale King, but hey, it makes for a decently fun challenge. The worst offender in this minigame are the controls being a bit iffy, but it's far from the worst, but overall it makes for a decently challenging and fun platformer. Hell, it has this cool fake out where you think you are grabbing the star, but you fall down a pit and the star flies away, forcing you to do more platforming. There's this section here that I swear to God was supposed to kill you, and it did. But going back once more, I got a health refuel for some reason and then had to jump on sauce. I swear to God this was a bit cheap difficulty, but hey, I did it. And that is all for Froggy's final dream. Overall, not that bad, but just like the base game, it's inoffensive and a bit of a time waster, but you can have fun in it. But we still have 4 challenges to tackle, and they are... okay, they are worse than Froggy 2, but that's because they don't really play with formula all that much. The first one, Shorthands, makes so you can't kick Froggy off the drink pipe, so it actually forces you to use his second form of defense. I don't know, it feels a bit weird to have it as a challenge because it doesn't really challenge you, it just forces you to use the window closing mechanic for Froggy, which just makes me question why make it a challenge when it's a feature. Second is Night Without Coffee. You simply need to last a whole night without coffee. One small issue, by 3 AM you can't see anything. You just sit in complete darkness and have to basically use your muscle memory and sound cues to know when to defend against what. So remember when I said that some enemies don't have sound cues? Yeah, sorry, but no, I am not beating this. I think the equivalent challenge would be FNAF Force Blind Mode without audio as well. So sorry everyone, but no, I am not going to be able to do this. Not in 100 years. I am not that big of a gamer. The last 2 are also kinda boring. Fast Toys is just max mode, everyone moves super fast, nothing to write home about. I also didn't beat that one. And last one is No Hearing, you simply have to run around like headless chicken and hope you timed Croco right, otherwise you're dead. And that was the entirety of 5 Nights with Froggy 3. Wow, that was out of nothing. Story is pretty much nothing to write home about, gameplay is functional but definitely not all that fun, and side content is somehow worse than the first game and not even gonna compare it to the sequel. But I guess that's what I get for playing an old 2016 fun game that saw no updates after its release and expecting it to be on par with them. So all I can say for this one, outside of that it's pretty bad, is that the planned remake will fix every single issue I had with this game, and then add some more to make it on par with the other entries. And now we can leave this small pile of nothing for a bigger pile of nothing. Five Nights with Froggy 4 is a cancelled 4th entry to Five Nights with Froggy series. However, it had a Night 1 demo released on 1st of January 2018, only in Russian, but hey, that's better than nothing. If you want to play it for some reason, or using the previously mentioned collection of old games. So let's check out what little content is in there. We open to this shot of a book titled... I think it's History of Fairy Kingdom? I'm not sure, I'm using translator here, I'm not going to lie. After that we get dropped to chapter 1 with this diary entry dated 1976. And yes, this is the same one we saw in Froggy 3, fully translated into English. Why was it not there? Clicking anywhere brings us to this minigame. You play as Froggy the First and walk around your castle. The text at the top says to find and console our wife, while the bottom one says that a lot of elements are from other games and will be changed for release. You walk through the castle until you reach these doors and dialogue between the two begins. It can be summarized as Margaret, Froggo's first wife, is annoyed at our incompetence of finding her second sleeper. The argument keeps getting more and more intense, so in anger Froggo throws out something out of the window, and it just so happens to be his diary. And after a bit of self-loathing, he goes to bed. Or rather, we click on the bed. However, he wakes up at the night and notices Froggy in his doorway. And the first thing he does is write down an entry about it. Wow, priorities, man. And just like that, night 1 begins. We are in a different room. And no matter, we have two things to click. On the left we have our watch, which does watch things and tells us time. And on the right we have a light switch. The only enemy we have is Froggy. When he appears behind the desk, you need to turn off the light and wait for him to leave. Yeah, we already saw that several times. However, you can stay in darkness for too long, as your poor heart cannot take sitting in the darkness too well, and I'm sure you die if you stay in it for too long. But this night is so easy you would have to do it on purpose. For real, all you do is wait for Froggy to show up, and then you turn off the light, wait for him to leave, and rinse and repeat. This was an actual snooze fest with how boring it was. Getting to 6 AM, we also get notified that there was supposed to be something more. Okay. And we get the last bit of gameplay. Walking. As a Froggot, once again, you walk through this landscape. You literally just walk for a minute or two before the demo ends. I really have not much to say about it. I guess the idea for the plot would be kind of interesting to explore the past of the kingdom, but the whole story got a rewrite after the updated versions came out, so I'm not sure if this game would even make sense in that new timeline that was created. But gameplay-wise, I think this game would be just too boring to make the story worthwhile experiencing, if it's anything like Night 1 again. Alright, I shouldn't get too mad about the unfinished storyline of a fun game that didn't even release. There's nothing wrong with checking it out if you're interested. But I basically just talked about the whole game, so I'm not sure why would you want to play it. There's one last thing I learned about later on. By pressing the second topmost option, you can play a cancelled concept for night gameplay. It's Five Nights at Warriors Origins. No, really, it's just like Warriors Origins, it's just that we lack mechanics. You have this map that allows you to walk between the rooms of the castle, and in each room you can turn off the light. That's all. In one room Froggy appears and you do actually need to turn off the light, but that's all. Time doesn't progress as far as I'm aware, and yeah, this sure is a skeleton of something with no meat and bones. Okay, now I'm truly done with the fourth game. I really shouldn't have given it this much time, but whatever, I did, and now we are here. We have one more game to play. But you know, I have this collection of every single version of Froggy, so I'm doing a bit of a side tangent. Alright, let me just say, if you don't care about this portion, just jump to part 6, I won't mind too much. And I gotta give credit where credit is due. GK Production took every single old version of Froggy, willingly packaged it into this nice launcher, and released it for the public for 10-year anniversary. Like, this is a lot of effort for an anniversary for a fun game. Most fun games are lucky to get a picture or something for the anniversary, and GK here just decided to package every old version of Froggy here. Like, most people would be ashamed to do this, most people do not like their old work, and it is also a nice way to preserve those fun games. Don't forget, we are in the age where Stop Killing Games is so active. Alright, less talking, more playing. Just heads up, I won't be covering every single version here. I will cover the most interesting ones, don't worry, but I did skip a few that seemed out on the boring side. Mostly early versions of Froggy 2, because most of them are basically one thing was added and not much more. But I will cover ones that have something others don't, so hey. Let's start with prototype for Froggy 1. Oh, and one more heads up, you're getting a very zoomed in version of the video. For me it looked more like this. Well, the menu is extremely basic, all in Russian by the way, this game only got English in the 2.0 update. But thankfully top option is still the new game. The plot seemed a bit different, we immediately get hired for watching the garden and after seeing inside again, we begin night 1. The whole place is pixelated as all hell, we have this button in the middle to toggle light on and off, numbers on the top corner seem to indicate the oil level. The phone is a bit different model, but still Nokia, and cameras are on this tablet instead of monitor like in the modern versions. The map of the kingdom and a few cameras are different, and I think there are less cameras overall. Yeah, there are 7 instead of 8. No alarm for vandals, and instead of window tap for the music box, we instead have the circular version that is more akin to basically every single other music box ever. And that is all because no one is programmed in yet, so you can't even be attacked. Between the 1.0 version there was a beta version that had everyone active, but no ending, and yeah, it was a beta test, so of course it's unfinished. Anyway, the 1.0 version is kinda bad. I mean, go figure, it's the first version, but I also kind of expected more out of it, which now that I think about it, maybe was a wrong approach. We still have the same background as in the prototype, but have a few new options at the top corner. One is settings, other extras with statistics, then how to play guide with unlockable entries and achievements. Yeah, somehow this game has achievements for finishing all nights, which makes me wonder if this would count as one of the first fun games to even feature them. Starting new game, outside of showing a newspaper, gives us the exact same scene as before, but it's a bit longer since now it includes this portion where you are being driven to Kingdom. You are dropped off, shown the hut, and then the night begins. This time, instead of a light switch, we have a very primitive version of Matchbox. You pick a match from the box, click on the icon of the lamp to light it up, and then click on it to extinguish the fire. I said it gets the point across on what it's supposed to be, but my god, it is objectively worse than the new one. And yeah, you can actually see how much oil is still in the lamp and how many matches you have in spare. I say that being told only approximation is a bit better for the fear factor, because you have no idea how much oil actually remains and if you have enough of it. But in horror games, the less you know, the more you fear, so hey, I say they made a good choice making it tell you only approximation rather than full numbers. Toys work exactly the same as before, and they look a bit different in the hut. God and Froggy is somehow less menacing than before. Jumpscares are worse as well, but it's not like there was a competition. Other than that, yeah, this is Froggy 1 but worse. Not much else to report than to jump into 2.0. Oh look, we actually have English now, and background for the main menu. Translation still isn't the best, but hey, better than using language I can't even understand. Gameplay wise it changed a bit. Now you have to click on the actual lamp in the room instead of the icon to light it up and extinguish, so one step closer to the final version of the matchbox mechanic. And because this is in English, I can actually tell you a bit about the story, because starting new game gives us the same cutscene as before, but it turns out the person in blue is Lorenzi. And the van isn't Thomas's van, it's Froggo's personal van. It is Lorenzi who drives us to the workplace and then introduces us, yeah, you know that. What else is there? The icon that showed you how much oil you have also changed into this rectangle, which in my opinion looks worse, but whatever. And yeah, this is 1.0 but in English. Maybe it has some bug fixes, but I didn't notice anything substantially different through night 1 to 3. Call me lazy, but I really didn't feel like playing Froggy 1 again. The next version is 3.0 and I am using the mobile version alongside the PC version to have an excuse to talk about it. So this time the graphics are actually pretty good. We are definitely closer to quality of update 4 graphics wise. All cameras have images that are once used in the latest version, but we still lack Cam 8 and Vandals. What is very interesting is that the music box is always accessible from any camera. You don't need to sit on Cam 1 to wind up the music box, you can be on any camera you want to, which really makes this version easy. No Vandals means you don't need to use the cameras all that much, which means you can immediately deal with threats that attack you. So even being freed from sitting on one cam, the cams are useless. Oh, and since this is the mobile version, the one I played, we have microtransactions. Here you can buy a few things that can help you during your shift, like extra matches, extra oil, new cameras with no static, ability to punch toys, and new music box that winds down slower. Of course, since this is a collection, all are free, and I cannot imagine how boring this game must be when you have everything turned on. Alright, forgot to mention, but 3.0 revamped the story to what it is today. Differences between the versions are pretty simple. The matchbox mechanic is a bit simpler there on the mobile. Music box takes the whole camera space when it's active, and cameras also looked a bit scuffed. A good improvement before 4.0 absolutely upped the standard for the series. Alright, time for Froggy 2. After picking the language, we have this loading screen. There are actually quite a lot of them in this game for some reason. On first boot, we also get this cutscene presenting the title of the game. And then a menu that is just as boring as it is now. At least toys are on the bottom, but the picture also doesn't change, so I'd say this one is a bit more boring. The new game doesn't start quite as dramatically, instead of slowly scrolling through newspapers, unlike the remake where it stops at relevant parts. After it gets to the bottom, you have to skip the cutscene to continue. Phone calls are overall shorter than before, but still have the multiple choices. And here, in the gameplay, we have the most changes. Instead of having 3 rooms, we only have the 2 offices. We still have 2 computers, but only in the security station can we turn the light on and off. For some reason, the second room has lights always on, meaning that the station is better of the 2. Outside of game being in 4:3 ratio and the computers having different boot up sequences with different system names, the biggest change is in a power system and defense methods. Since we have no access to the fusebox room, we instead have this power meter more akin to FNAF 1 and many other fun games that have this power system. You have this gauge that tells you how much power you are using, turning anything on makes it go up by 1 stage, and it surprisingly changes way less than I expected. You know, you still try not to waste too much power, but now that the game has power usage, I am less likely to leave the computer on since it may drain a lot more power than I want to. And losing all the power means you are defenseless against both Kitty and Croco. And the other biggest change are the defense methods, because both door and vent grate are gone. So how do you defend against Draco and everyone using vent? For Draco, he's essentially a second plush Froggy, forcing you out of the room, and vent guys also ask you to get out of the CCTV room. So every new toy is basically a plush Froggy copy. Cool. We have 5 enemies that ask you to do the same damn thing. Oh yeah, Froggy and Kitty and Croco work the same way and gnomes are arguably worse. They bolt to the office at the start of the night, and when they do, you need to have music box wound up so that they fall asleep. After that they become puppet and the music box has to be on constantly, otherwise they kill you. So gnomes here are essentially a puppet in your office instead of being a somewhat interesting threat. Alright, Golden Frog is the same, Lorenzi simply turns off computer, and Sophie didn't exist at all in this version. In short, this game is rather easy. It just evolves into walking between the rooms, clicking Golden Froggy, turning lights on and off, and winding up music box because I forgot to mention there are no fire alarms. Which means you have no reason to put the cameras on, period. God, this makes the existence of these computers worthless. But it does cover up one great mistake I noticed on night 1. Remember my complaint about the map in the second game being too big, but at least readable? Yet this game has neither somehow and has this monstrosity. And yes, you can scroll through it with your mouse, which somehow makes this even more confusing. And the layout is just weird, man, like, take a look. I have no clue what I'm looking at, or where the hell are the entryways to my office. The closest cameras are so far away that I swear there was supposed to be one more on the way to our office, but nope, there are none. You just have this long hallway. Theater has a very abstract shape as well, like you try to take a layout of a FNAF map and make it into an actual building, without considering that those maps are often gameplay first, actual engineering second. But here we are, what I can possibly consider the worst FNAF location ever made. And since you don't need to turn on the computer ever, it means you don't need to look at it, which is arguably a blessing. Oh, and the security station is called a cashbox for some reason on the map. Just noticed it. Minigames are also different, but it's really a matter of having worse sprites. Lore seems to be a bit different, most minigames are similar, except for Night 2 and 5. Night 2 shows toys actually escaping from the Vandals attack, and Night 5 is somehow even more gruesome, showing a Froggy dragging Princess into the underground and then... Oh god. We also immediately get shown that the cave collapsed, just like in Live Forever ending, but this time it's the main ending. After that we play as the detective finding the place of murder and get killed. Wait, does it mean that the visions from the first game were memories of that detective? However, interesting is that the game ends on Night 5 and Night 6 is optional, because Night 6 is just Froggy 1 again. It's supposed to be David's last shift, but because this was before the update, they added that to Froggy 2 for some reason. And I mean, it's Froggy 1, version 2.0 more specifically, it's just you have a notepad that tells you what to do. I will add, however, that this version is actually harder than the current one. For finishing it, you get an image of a suitcase teasing the third game. There are custom night and other special nights, but they give you nothing more lore-wise. I can't stop talking about Froggy 2, can I? What can I say, it just has a lot to be talked about. Unfortunately, I can't say the same about pre-release versions of Froggy 2 2.0. The most interesting one is the first one with this music box you can move around, but other than that, it's just the same game at the various stages of development. No great changes like Froggy 1, it stayed relatively the same. Well, maybe it's better that way, because it means I can put those old versions to rest and finally talk about the most recent release in the Froggy series, and the reason this video even exists. Five Nights with Froggy Alternate Edition released on 23rd of July 2025, which just so happens to be the date the original demo was released on. Anyway, as the name suggests, it's a semi-remake of the first game with some stuff changed around to make it a bit different. Boy, like I didn't play enough Froggy 1 today, but what I can say is that I was not disappointed by this game. The game begins once again with the title screen, and while it's a bit static, I can say that there are more menu styles for us to unlock, so we won't be saying this one for too long. Not much else to add than to begin the game. The story is once again starring Thomas, but this time the lore is a bit expanded because now our guy is married, and it is his wife that finds that job advert for Fairy Kingdom and, well, we get hired. We drive there and after a few credits crash into the gazebo. Only Lorenzo greets us this time, says nothing bad happened, shows us our hut. Dialogue is similar, but it has a slightly different tone, if you will. He says goodbyes, at least explaining why he has to run off this time. Thomas is worried about paperwork, but decides not to worry too much and goes to park the van and start his shift. Oh, and the title drops. For Monday, I don't have much to say. It's once again hand-holding like the original Froggy one did, and once again, Froggy is our only enemy. Though he has his left eye missing rather than the right one, but there are changes to the game. Camera system got rid of one camera, making it 7 cams in total again. There are no vandals to worry about, so no alarm system as well. Few cameras look different and personally better compared to the original appearances, and most nice of them all. You can use A and D to scroll through cameras. Oh, it's so good not having to use arrow keys and have keyboard take more space than it needs to. And regarding cameras, I noticed that there is no music box. Hell yeah! But also the third gnome is gone for some reason, so I guess that's a plus. On that topic, Froggy doesn't enter the cabin and sit on our right, instead going through the chimney like Kitty. And what I should probably say earlier, the game has English text, but no voice act, so every dialogue spoken is in Russian, and that applies to Lorenzi's phone calls as well, but the voice actor does sound pretty good. I don't have much of a reference, but he does sound good. And one last thing to add, the hut has 2 decorative lights that can be clicked to activate, the star map and this lamp. Alright, that's all for night 1. After the night we get a cutscene where we meet up with Antonio, the day guard. Though conversation goes quite different, as instead of dumping the mechanics on you, he says Lorenzi will tell them to you instead. I really think this changes quite a bit, since now Lorenzi doesn't seem as oblivious to threat as he was in the original. Oh, and look, menu has changed. Now Froggy is here. On Tuesday, Lorenzi first talks about Antonio and himself as he reveals that he is masking a lot of unease during the day and questioning why we are still here. And finally, he tells us how to deal with Froggy and Kitty. And I have slightly unfortunate news. The lamp doesn't include a matchbox mechanic. You just click on it to turn it on and off, with a bit of delay. And while I am sad that we don't get a return of matches, I will say other mechanics compensate for it. We of course get the return of Kitty as previously mentioned, she's scared away by light, you know that. And that would be all, if something didn't happen at 3 AM. The palace lighting system suddenly starts malfunctioning. Randomly, one of the cameras will turn on the palace lights, and if you let more than 3 turn on, the power goes out and you can't use your cameras anymore. To stop that from happening, you need to press and hold this command prompt. Simple tonight, since you don't need cameras all that much tonight, but it will be more important soon. Once again, we get invited for dinner with the king, but this time we do succeed at getting Froggo to talk about the history of the kingdom. Most interesting fact was that there were supposedly other kingdoms like the Fairy Kingdom, but Froggo for some reason stutters when trying to mention one of them before Vandals attack and the conversation is forced to end. Wednesday is the night where things start indeed changing in the gameplay. Lorenzi first talks about the events related to the disappearance of Sophie II and actually suspects that toys may have something to do with it. And also passes us further information from Antonio regarding another threat, Cheburashka. What? You expected Kroko? Well, not in this reality it seems. Cheburashka does thankfully work differently compared to her original appearance and utilizes 2 new mechanics. Well, okay, one is the door borrowed from Froggy 2, but the other one is hiding under our desk. Cheburashka will get to the door and start counting to 5 in Russian, of course, and opening the door. When he reaches 5, you should hold the door shut so that he bangs on them and leaves. But in case you didn't hold the door or left them open, he will enter the hut and you have to turn off the light and hide under the table and wait for him to leave. No idea how it works, considering we are on eye level with the toys like this, but whatever, at least she doesn't kill you. At 3 AM Lorenzi calls you regarding the nightmare he had and the other enemy activates, Phantom. Phantom is this weird toy that I forgot to mention in Froggy 3 section, because he appeared at the end of Froggy Dreams, but to be fair he was kind of useless there. But what Phantom is here is an enhanced version of Golden Froggy. He randomly appears in the hut and distorts your screen before killing you, and to get rid of him, you turn the camera on and point at him. He can also appear under the desk, but there you just need to click on him, no fun required. And while I expected them to not mesh all that well with each other, the door and hiding does seem to work pretty well in tandem with one another. And I gotta admit, at least we have something else to do than turning the lamp on and off, because let's face it, it did get a little boring after a while, so personally, I don't mind the change. After this night we get another cutscene, but this time it's with our wife. And to be fair, not much is really sad here. Moving to a new apartment is going smoothly, and wife is a bit worried about vandals and us, but other than that, yeah. It sure was important to the story. It's Thursday, and you know what that means. That's right, time for Lorenzi to crash out.
Да как же меня это достало! Весь день ходить с натянутой улыбкой, когда здесь вот такое происходит. Люди пропадают, игрушки ходят, теперь я схожу с ума. Никогда не думал, что попаду в такую ситуацию, когда устраивался сюда. Вы... Вот да, вы вообще понимаете, как рискуете? Вот ты, Томас, зачем каждый день приходишь сюда, вновь и вновь? Не видишь, какой кошмар здесь происходит? И еще Фрогальд, пытаюсь успокаивать его изо дня в день, а по итогу все еще надеется на что-то. Почему вы все рискуете жизнью? Чего я должен вам всем помогать? Может, мне вообще уволиться?
But also give us some info on the next enemy, who I suspected to finally activate, Gnomes. As I previously mentioned, they aren't using the music box anymore, and instead work together to take you down. When you hear this giggle, that means you need to go on cameras and quickly fly through them to find one of them. And how they work is that when you see white-haired one with white eyes, Bublik, you have a black-haired one with red eyes, Neznajka, at your door and vice versa. When Neznajka is at the door, close and hold them till he bangs and leaves. If Bublik is at the door, hide under the table and wait for him to leave. Alone, they don't seem to be that dangerous. Don't forget, you still have Froggy and Kitty to watch out for in the chimney, alongside Czebruszka, and Czebruszka especially combos with them well, as when you find Gnome on the camera, the door opens, which means Czebruszka just enters the cabin without even counting, forcing you under the table. It does seem like Czebruszka pauses other threats from attacking you, which is good, as this night was challenging, but not impossible as I did it on my first try. But this win streak was about to come to an end. On Friday night again, we have a storm. Lorenzi questions us why we are even here, before Froggy comes to his room.
Самое место, где... О, нет.
But this time phone cuts off before we hear if he screamed or not. Hold your breaths, he may just leave this one, and since we didn't hear his death on phone call, we didn't hear it, it didn't count. And here's the single moment that ended my win streak. Indeed, Froggy is now mad. So mad he changed his own rules. Now instead of waiting in the darkness, he will quickly run into the chimney with audible bangs and after a bit quickly peek at us and leave with a croak. However, while he's speaking, you cannot have cameras turned on, or be moving between places, or be looking at the door. He essentially says one loud stop, for you to pause and think who needs to be dealt with while he's speaking, because no one stops coming while he's running down the chimney, so we can get everyone here at once. Oh, but this isn't even half the problem, because at 3 AM, light starts malfunctioning again. So now you need to balance keeping the light on for kids, listening for gnomes, Czebruszka and Froggy while trying to keep the lights off so you can keep defending against the gnomes. For night 5, this difficulty jump was to be expected, but considering I breezed through the last 4 nights, I guess I didn't expect it to actually happen, which is the sole reason it took me half an hour to finish. And I'm gonna be honest, it was quite refreshing to have such a change in gameplay this late into the week. Oh, and the music that started playing at 3 AM was quite good as well, just listen to it. Pretty sure it's an original track as well, because I turned the YouTube mode on to not play copyrighted songs, so I say they are pretty great. But eventually I did it, and got through Night 5. And here we have rather big change to our story, as it turns out Lorenzi has indeed survived the encounter with extra-mad Froggy. And just like he said on his call, he's going to leave the kingdom behind. In spite of being loyal to the king, he sees that things are only going to get worse, and doesn't even try to reason with Thomas this time, simply wishing us good luck and saying goodbye. Okay, let me quickly talk about Saturday, because it was uneventful, if I'm gonna be honest. Toys move blazing fast, yeah, and there is this fog, but there weren't any real gimmicks here. I bet it on the first try, in spite of seeing how hard it was and having few close calls. I mean, hell, we don't even get a phone call or a message, it's just us and the toys tonight. But beating Saturday, we get a quick talk with the king, and once again he says we don't need to come tomorrow to work and we should just get our paycheck and leave. But we know that's not true, because it's time for Custom Sunday. But before that, let me talk a bit about extras, because we have quite a few of them. First we have Bestiary, with entries written by Thomas about all the toys, people he met and locations. Pretty cool for people who like lore. Then we have menu styles I mentioned before, which we can change between 3, and I still have quite a few of them locked. And lastly, notes, which I should mention before, but I'm going to do it now because they give you tips written by Antonio regarding the game. Although the last one is ominous. Oh well, let's check that custom now. Wait a minute. This isn't custom night. Okay, at least we get a phone call.
Алло? Том, это я, Лоренси. Решил позвонить тебе напоследок. Уже завтра утром уезжаю к семье в родной город. Ты все еще там? Я слышал, что это будет твоя последняя смена. Это радует, однако в конце недели эти игрушки становятся слишком агрессивными. Мне еще повезло, что я вовремя выключил свет еще тогда. И я буду честен. Ты слишком сильно рискуешь сейчас, Том. Зачем? В чем смысл? Этому месту рано или поздно конец. Может, я чего-то не понимаю. В любом случае, спасибо за проведенное время там, Том. Это место было действительно сказочным. Надеюсь, наши дороги пересекутся когда-нибудь еще. Желаю тебе удачи и... Прощай.
Oh, he's back! He's back! That's right, give a loud applause to Draco for reappearing tonight as a boss fight, and a pretty good one at that. If you don't panic like I did, you will be shown a notepad left by Antonio for you with tips on how to defend ourselves. And he has 3 whole ways of attacking. Okay, let's start with the easiest one, roaming behind the window. If he's there, turn on the cameras and find his friend Snakey on cameras and flash him. Alright, you have a camera flash now. After flashing, he's done. Second is this, chimney. The game will show you a warning symbol under the chimney and you need to hide and wait for Growling to pass. But if Snakey appears with you, run out and wait for Draco to leave. Don't run back under the table or you will die. And the most complex and multi-step way, door. When Draco's growling gets very loud like in Froggy 2, turn on the light and hold the door. While holding the door, Draco will attack multiple times and you need to hover your mouse over the white spots to push the door. If you have no light, they don't appear and you die. After that, Draco becomes stunned and Snakey appears on camera. Find him and then wait for Draco to appear either in window or chimney and flicker the light. Till 3 AM this night was pretty much hand-holding me, but after 3 AM music kicks in and Draco picks up on speed. He runs quicker, enters chimney quicker, the door mini-game circles get smaller and have to be done in quicker succession, and you need to deal with him twice while he's stunned. this was actually pretty challenging and good boss fight, utilizing every single mechanic we have learned up to this point. Your reaction time is tested, knowledge on quick camera usage, turning lights on and hiding makes for a wonderful time, where I really can't say any death didn't feel like it was game's fault and more so mine, which is quite impressive for a fun game boss fight. Oh, and at 5 AM, HUD starts burning down and Draco is even faster, music is hype as hell. And in spite of everything, we persevere and finish the last shift. We get our paycheck from the king, he says a few words about leaving the kingdom behind, and the credits roll. And we even get a nice message from GK Production himself. And of course, a new menu theme, and nothing is here because it's the end. Yep, this is the end. No, don't click this, this is the end, damn it! So just like in the original, we unlock the ability to play as the previous guard, Antonio, and I guess while the game is technically over, this is a prequel, so it's not like it changes much, right? Saturday starts with Antonio talking with King about the toys and actually learning about Philosopher a bit. But it's nothing new lore-wise, as far as I'm aware. Antonio has a plan to wear toys down for the next week to make sure the king has a chance to escape them, and wants to hire a new guard for night shifts since toys are growing more and more restless and Antonio is attracting too much of Philosopher's attention. King agrees and offers cash for that, Antonio denies, and the night begins. So remember like an hour ago in the first game section how I talked about Dominic Night Shift being very easy and boring and not all that rewarding with its lighter mechanic? Yeah, Antonio's night is nothing like that. This night is just as fast, if not faster than Thomas's Saturday, and has a new use for lighter. Now in the roof there's apparently a hatch that toys can open and enter into the cabin, specifically Kitty. To get rid of her, you turn on the lighter and hold it close to her to scare her away. I guess it's some kind of instinct to not burn down or just light blinding her. Not sure, but it sure as hell changes the loop a bit. Froggy isn't mad too, so again he waits in the chimney for a bit. And my god, Kitty and Froggy like entering together tonight. They would constantly go in together like some kind of couple, which means a lot of flickering this lamp, which is also faster than when Thomas did it. And yeah, this was just a very fun and challenging night. Really fast paced, reaction heavy and threat calculating night, just how I like it. And at around 3 AM you start seeing these visions that are quite annoying if I'm gonna be honest, but once I reached 3 AM I didn't stop and completing the night on 5th try I think, still didn't stop it from being fun. Finishing the night we get a more classic theme for the menu with greens just like Froggy 1 and Sunday unlocked. We still have a storm, but this time we get a phone call from Philosopher himself. Dialogue is a bit interesting as it implies some kind of relationship between the two.
Спасать того противостоянию, кому посвятил жизнь твой покойный отец.
But the night itself is just Draco boss again, but this time he has one new way of entering the hut through the hatch. Just like Kitty, hover a light on near him to make him move to a new spot. Do that a few times and he leaves. And outside of no hand holding till 3 AM like Thomas Sunday had, this is, by and large, another Draco boss fight. Which, you know, I love dragons and Draco, but maybe doing this to within 1 hour of 100 kinda hard the hype it was supposed to have. Not saying it wasn't fun, but having to do the same thing and again with just one more mechanic was a bit on the boring side. And I just realized that on both nights Draco attacks the HUD camera, which is why it's broken on Thomas's first shift. And 5 AM is just as hype as ever. After beating the night, Antonio gets to talk with Lorenzi, who apparently came back from vacation, and Antonio just spills the plan he has to keep everyone safe. Which is, step 1, get a new night guard by advertising and move Antonio to day shift so the philosopher calms down. Step 2, reinforce the hut. Step 3, keep the new guy away from any information regarding the situation, even if it's clear that the situation is extremely interesting. Step 4, everyone leaves next Sunday, and Lorenzi can leave earlier after he is done giving information about the toys to not endanger himself further. And while at it, make sure the hired guard doesn't have anything to lose, like a family. Yeah, okay, that point kinda failed. Lorenzi questions a bit that they essentially hire someone to do a lot of dirty work for them, but Antonio reassures that if the guy wants to leave, he can do it anytime he wants to, and since pay is supposedly very good, finding a replacement won't take too long. Lorenzi agrees to do his part, and both exchange goodbyes, and the Antonio portion is done for. Oh my god, we have Draco on the main menu to speak. And lastly we have, as of now, 4 challenges to tackle. Supposedly there are supposed to be more in the future update, with more of them. First one, passwords. Sometimes cameras start beeping and on them you need to find numbers and enter them on cam 1 to window to disable it. Keeping it on for too long kills you. Not that bad of a bonus, kinda like that bomb challenge in Froggy 2. Next one, broken lamp. Your lamp is leaky and can only hold 10% of oil in it, and it depletes twice as fast as before. To refill the lamp on the cameras, you can find barrels of oil that let you refill it, and TNT barrels that... Yeah. This was a bit more stressful than passwords, pretty much only because of Kitty, but still not that bad. Challenge 3, snowstorm. It is a snow outside and the cabin has no insulation at all, meaning you are constantly freezing. Anytime the door opens, you freeze faster. To warm yourself up, you need to run under the table and sit next to a heater installed down there. You know how frozen you are based on the sides of the screen having this freeze effect, but the heater runs on power that you can recharge on your phone. Somehow. I didn't expect to really like this one, but not only was it interesting balance of staying up to date with everyone, but the death from freezing is quite funny. Last challenge, gun. I know it's called the hunt, but it's the gun challenge. It's the gun challenge. You are given the rifle and you can shoot 7 times with it before having reload on cameras. Anything that comes your way has to be shot down, lamp turns on and off randomly, and at 5 AM you have to deal with Draco, and his mechanic is actually changed a bit, as now he will first charge a few times, and then appear all over the hut, and between the pounces you need to reload the gun. Very fun and satisfying challenge to end this game on. So this is all folks. This was entirety of 5 Nights with Froggy Alternate Edition and the series as a whole. For now, the Steam version isn't out yet and the third game is still waiting to be remastered by Hay. That is 4 full games, 1 demo and 4 very old versions of these games. But going back to the Alternate Edition, I mean, yeah, it's pretty great, I have no complaints here. It's a very well made game with nice visuals, interesting reimagining of original story, and mechanics that somehow managed to make the similar gameplay loop feel very different. If you feel like trying it out, in spite of just listening to me talk about everything in it, go for it. I genuinely recommend to try this one alongside the first and second game. I recommend checking the third game and old versions if you want to see how much GK production improved and learned game development over the course of the years. Anyway, I don't feel like doing a long ranking like the last time, so I will just speed through it. At the bottom, old versions because most of them are not great and have been relegated to that collection for a reason. Throw the fourth game in there as well because it's not finished and you really shouldn't count it separately. Next, Froggy 3 original version. It's just a pretty bad FNAF 4 game with an interesting coffee mechanic and money management system that doesn't really ask you to manage your money all that much. Next, Froggy 1, still pretty great, can't say no to it, but gameplay wise, even if I really like the matchbox mechanic, it doesn't really match the next 2 games. So who gets the number 2 spot? Froggy 2 of course. Listen, I may have gotten a bit mad when trying to 100% it, but without finishing it, I can say if you want to play the 7 nights and maybe a few challenges, you will have a good time. But really, don't go for 100%, it's quite tedious. So number 1 is Alternate Edition, already mentioned before, but gameplay is wonderful, and so is everything around it, making it an actually good anniversary game. And this is all for Froggy series. Outside of the old versions, again, a solid series to give a try in spite of being maybe a bit overshadowed here on the English FNAF scene, but overall it should give you a pretty decent time. Okay, now that I'm done with the series, I thought I will just go take a nap and remember not to accept weird hobos into my house because they may just curse my toys and to try to kill me for some reason. Seriously, what was Philosopher's motive all along?